My name is Rudy Martin. I'm the VP of Business Development for Munyon Painting, Restoration, and Waterproofing. We have Andy, who is our structural engineer, our certified roof inspector, and he's got a bunch of other great big titles. I'll let him introduce himself before he presents. We have Dan, the COO of Campbell Property Management. He's going to be moderating. He's going to be taking your questions. So you do not have audio and video for the attendees. If you have a question, there's a Q&A in the bottom. Please type in your question. We'll field these questions as much as we can. At the end of the seminar, we're going to have about a half hour to open up the panel, and we have tons of experts that are on our panel to help answer any of your questions. I'll go ahead and let's get started in introducing that panel. First up with Campbell Property Management, we have Dan. Dan, if you could just take a few minutes to introduce yourself and your company.
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Dan Tiernan. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Campbell, one of the 5 owners of the company. Campbell is South Florida's highest rated property management company. We serve over 400 clients in South Florida and the Treasure Coast. We have about 850 employees, and the only business we do is condos and HOAs. So feel free to reach out if you ever need any help with anything. And you might want to check out our blog, and I think I've already referred somebody to some content on that. It's Read Fan, fan is FloridaAssociationNews.org. It's got a lot of great content in there for condos and HOAs. Thanks, everybody. Look forward to the session today.
Excellent. Thank you. Next, we're going to go to Imperial Clean. Peggy, tell us a little bit about yourself and your company, please.
Unmute yourself, please.
We're looking for the mute button.
In the upper right of your screen, the blue. Oh, no, the bottom left. Sorry.
The bottom left. I didn't want to.
As Peggy has some technical difficulty, we will bunny hop her and we'll get to Vintium Software. Jonathan, I know a lot about your company. Please tell us a little bit more about what they do.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Rudy, and thanks everybody for joining. My name is Jonathan Doro. I'm the managing director of Vintium Software. We make community association software for condos and HOA communication. We start off by building a public-facing front-end website, followed that by a secure back-end portal where you've got access to message boards, document storage, communication through email, SMS, voice messages. We'll actually call residents on their cell phone or those home or landlines that we were talking about earlier. We've got a mobile app, event calendars. On the management side, we've got service requests, amenity reservations, which are huge now with a lot of amenities being open for COVID. And we actually just launched a tool for virtual meetings. We're partnering with Zoom, so kind of familiar as far as how the tools work. But it's supercharged with Vintium, where you've got your agenda, your meeting minutes, your survey functions all in one centralized place. So if you've got any questions, I'll go ahead and share my information in the chat. Thanks, Rudy.
Thank you. Jonathan does a great job of setting up all of our IT, setting up this call, setting up the questions, setting up the links. So a special thank you to you. Your hard work does not go unnoticed. Peggy, are we ready?
I am ready. Thank you, and good morning, everyone. Sorry about the technical difficulty there. I am Peggy West with my mask on. So I just want to remind everybody to please wear your mask and keep your social distancing going. I am now with Imperial Clean, and what a better time to talk about roofing with water leaks now with it raining, right? Choose Imperial Clean because we are your trusted service provider for water, fire, mold, damage cleanup. We're 24/7, 365 days a year. So write this number down and call me. It's 561-277-6565. Yep, that's me, Peggy. And when the water trickles down and its tricks start to happen, we'll be the treat for you for cleanup. So happy Halloween, be safe, and talk to you soon.
Very clever. Thank you very much, Peggy. Moving on to Rosenbaum. Paula, are you handling that introduction?
Good morning, Rudy. Thank you. I am. Katie's not in the office today, so I am handling the introduction. And I'd first like to introduce Katie Phillips, who usually handles the introductions. She is our educational director here at the firm. She has a very unique spot with us, and we're happy to have her. She's been with us for about 3 years. Katie was a property manager for, I think, approximately 23 years. And many of you that are listening today probably know Katie personally. Katie introduces us to many clients, potential clients. She also operates as a person who does not start the clock, so to speak. I know that's such a difficult way to explain when you call your attorney as a property manager or a board member. That's how you sometimes perhaps feel. But Katie is actually, she does not have a billable hour. She is free of charge for operational types of questions. It's been a very effective development for the firm, and we're very happy to have her. So when you have an operational type of question, or even if you have a legal issue, you can call Katie first, and then Katie will most likely and sometimes tell you, listen, you need to call myself, Paula Mara, Steve Brayton, or our new colleague, Michael Casanova. And I'll introduce myself. Paula Mara, I practiced in Florida since 2003, predominantly just in condo, HOA, a lot of country club law as well. If you're out there with a club client or a master client who has a club associated with it, I have a lot of expertise in country club law, which is a lot different in a sense than our HOAs and condo law. Steve Brayton, my colleague, has practiced 26, I think almost 27 years, again, predominantly HOA, condo law. And we have Michael Casanova that has been with our firm for around 3 months, and he has about 11 years experience, again, primarily in condo HOA law. So that is our group. We like to introduce our firm as a deep bench of experience where we hope to receive questions from our clients. We give you straight answers. We don't give you wishy-washy answers. That's kind of our goal. And our goal is to develop our relationships long-term. So that is Rosenbaum PLL. We can handle most issues except for if you're going through a divorce or if you've committed some crime. We don't do that. But we also have Dan Rosenbaum, who is our managing shareholder. He has 40 years plus experience in Florida law, in one of the best litigators, in my opinion. Hopefully we don't have to discuss litigation, but one of the best litigators in the Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach areas.
Excellent. Thank you so much. We look forward to your insight in the panel discussion. The legal and the liability aspect of some of this topic is extremely important. So we're looking for your insight when we get to the panel discussion. Next up with Alliance Association Bank, Lisa.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Lisa Elkin. I'm with Alliance Association Bank. And the most important thing to remember is the word association. That says it all. We only do association deposits and loans. One thing is we do own our own lockbox. So when people are mailing their payments, it's coming directly to our lockbox that only handles associations. Right now, we have over $3.7 billion just in association deposits. We're a nationwide bank that only focuses on the banking needs of associations. And most importantly, we're bringing the resources of our bank directly to whether it's the management companies and or the self-managed associations. So with Alliance Association Bank, just remember it's one focus and one expertise, and that's time and money savings for your communities. Thank you.
Thank you so much. United Professional Engineering, Carmelo. Now, this gentleman is extremely important in the process that we're talking about. Engineers are the doctors, if you will, of all of our structural building. So we're looking forward also to your insight when we get into the panel discussion. But Carmelo, tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, Rudy, thanks for having us. Yeah, Carmelo Giglio I'm the owner of United Professional Engineering. We do building restoration engineering, structural engineering, special inspections, seawalls, etc. Basically, we do most of the building structure in seawalls. So we do specs, construction administration, special inspections, etc. We've been in business since 2005. I have over 21 years of experience. We do extensive concrete repair projects, re-roofs, repaints, new windows and doors, waterproofing. So again, anything related to the building. And we get involved in some of the site work as well sometimes, including seawalls. So again, thanks for having us. Please contact us if you have any questions and with any of your engineering needs. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. DSS Condo, Kelly or Claudia, please introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about your company.
Morning, I'm Kelly Kuhn. I'm the guy with the girl's name. I don't know what my parents were thinking. They had 9 children, boys and girls, and they had me, and they said, hey, let's call him Kelly. And then it was the 60s, so I had long hair. So anyway, so that's a little bit more than you'd ever want to know about me. We are DSS Condo. We're a owner's representative project management firm, and we work in Broward, Miami, and up in Palm Beach. Those are areas that we like to help our clients. We're exclusive, just like with Lisa, we only work with associations. When you need a project management firm that's going to represent the ownership of so many people, you want somebody who can speak the language. We have an incredible crew with our company. The years of experience is very valuable. We can help you with all your needs when you're doing restoration, renovation, beautification. If you're getting ready for your 40-year certification, very important, reach out to us to talk to me. It's free. As I heard somebody say, there's no charge because I'm not a expert, but the experts on our team, such as Claudia Garcia, who's on the, she's going to be our expert panelist today. I'm just here to enjoy everybody. She has a degree in architecture. She is our operations manager, and we're just very excited to see what you have to offer today. Last month was a fantastic class, and I plan on learning a lot today. So thanks for having us.
Excellent. RMS Roof.
Hello.
Condo Consulting. Ricardo, please share.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. And my name is Ricardo Moncada with RMS, Building Envelope Consultants. We protect the building owner's best interest when it comes to roofing and waterproofing. We are not contractors. We're only consultants. We sit on your side of the table to protect you and your investment. We use the latest technologies to assess your buildings. We use drones, aerial infrared, handheld devices, our own hands-on expertise to fully evaluate your buildings and set the right path of action for you to make the right roofing decisions. So that's one of the ways that we protect your best interest. We're offering a free consultation. So please book your free consultation now. It's no risk. It's a no-brainer.
Thank you very much. Andy, please present yourself. If you leave anything out, I'll be sure to go ahead and add that in. Before we go to Andy, all of the participants, all the attendees, please, if you have a question, you can use the Q&A or the chat button in the bottom. Dan will go ahead and field your questions. He'll politely interrupt Andy as we go along, and he'll ask those questions during the presentation. And then at the end, we'll try to answer them as many as possible. If we don't get to your question, me and Andy sit down and we try to go through all the questions, and we'll send those in a follow-up. So please use the Q&A, ask questions. We're here to help. This presentation is for you to get you more educated on roof coatings if it is or isn't a good fit for you. Ricardo, we spoke offline and you have a very interesting statistic tidbit. Please, when we get to the panel, I want you to share that, okay?
Yes, absolutely.
Please, go ahead.
Is that my cue, Rudy?
That's your cue. You're a little low on the volume. With that big headset, I thought you'd be louder.
How about if I get a little bit closer to my mouth? How's this?
Yes, much better.
Can someone make me so you're seeing my screen, or has that already happened?
No, that's something that you have to request down at the bottom. There's an option
I'm
for
sorry.
screen.
Share screen. How's that? How you looking now? Do you see a great meme?
I just want someone to sweep me off my feet.
There we go. Yeah, that's how you know it's here. So thank you guys so much for allowing me to talk to you today. I'm really excited. We got a lot of awesome people on the panel. I'm really excited. We got some people with architecture degrees. I know Carmelo personally. I've worked with him on successful projects in the past, and the other roof consultants. So that's great. We got a lot of smart people in the room today, and I'm excited to hear what they have to say. And instead of just listening to myself talk. Roof coatings is what we're talking about today. And let's go ahead and get into it. Who am I to speak to you? I have my bachelor's and master's degrees in civil structural engineering. I'm a professional engineer and a special inspector, and I'm also a certified general contractor, which is awesome. If you're all three of those things, they call that the trifecta, and that means you can get sued on a project no matter what goes wrong. So it's super awesome. It's really good. My apologies to you guys that have heard that joke before. I worked as a consulting engineer before joining the dark side and becoming a scumbag contractor. And now I'm kind of trying to turn a page here and really get back to the bright side and teach people about what I know. A little bit about what I do. I worked as the official roofing consultant for Pinellas County for several years. And these days, besides working for Munyon, I am attached to the state of Florida's Urban Search and Rescue Task Force. So I go on rescue missions after hurricanes and help the rescue teams get into and out of damaged buildings. And I'm glad I haven't had to go anywhere this year yet. What are we getting into today? Typical condo construction for roofs in Florida. What do we normally see? Introduction to common repair techniques, and then the big question: can we repair this, or do we actually need to re-roof it? And what do we think about for cost when we're looking at this stuff? And I understand that there's going to be somebody fielding questions from the audience, and when those questions come in, just feel free to interrupt me anytime. We love questions here. So we'll start getting into it. I'm going to start this off with a question, and I'm going to ask many questions during this class. So if you guys in the audience can plan on just typing in and responding, that'll be a big help. It'll be a big ego boost when we actually see answers to our questions. And the first question is, we see here a flat roof system, and we have flat in quotation marks. Can somebody tell me, why is the word flat in quotation marks? Can you give me an answer and let me know what you're thinking about? Why is it flat roof? Is it not really flat? I don't know. Let's see what we get. Here is our typical flat roof system. This would be called a modified bitumen asphalt or mod bit roof system. That's what we see in a lot of our big condominiums and commercial buildings. And this gentleman's putting down a mod bit roof the old fashioned way with hot tar, very stinky, very messy. It gets all over your clothes. It's awesome. Now we use a little bit of a different system called we use a torch applied system, which is a little bit cleaner. This would be an EPDM, a pond liner system. So it's another type of flat roof that we can expect to see. Do we have any answers yet on why our flat is in quotation marks? Do we get any responses?
We had Wendy said no pitch, and Mark Graham said, question, no roof is completely flat. Good. Okay, I'm going to give them both a gold star. I like Mark's answer best because no roof should be completely flat. So we put flat in quotation marks. We call it flat because it's an easy term to use. The technical term for this would be a low slope roofing system. But that was our EPDM. And here's what EPDM stands for. This is actually my father. This is Professor Gerald Schrader. So that's what he looks like. So thanks, Dad. He's going to come in, once or twice to let us know about nerd stuff. And he's my inspiration. Sloped roof systems that we see, this would be a type of sloped roof system or a steep slope system. So here's a metal roof system that we see these in a lot of our beachside condominiums. Another type of steep slope roofing system would be our asphalt shingle roof, just like we see on a lot of our homes. So we see here kind of the old school configuration. We see plywood sheathing over rafters. We don't usually use rafters for new type of construction. We see roofing felt, and that's another sign that this is kind of an old picture. I'm going to ask question number 2 here. Roofing felt is shown in this photo or in this diagram. What do we normally use now instead of roofing felt? So we'll give you a second to answer that. We can see the other components of the roof, an asphalt shingle roof on here. So we see asphalt shingles, we see our fascia and flashing, and we see our roofing felt. Do we have any answers on what we use now instead of roofing felt? Anybody? Bueller? We had someone said weatherproof paper.
That's pretty good.
And
that's pretty
peel
good.
And stick.
Yeah, well, I mean, they don't get any gold stars now because they're looking at it on the screen. But yeah, peel and stick roofing underlayment. So it's like a big waterproof sticker that we can put down on the roofs. It's easier to use than felt paper, and it's kind of taken the place in felt paper for most of our construction that we use now. So that's peel and stick. So good job. Anticipating the problems on roofs, what do we want to look at when we get into, walking an actual flat roof or low slope roof? These are the kind of things yes.
Hey, sorry, there were a few questions that I think might make sense before we move on to this next piece. So Ahmad Baki asked, when changing roofing materials, what are the implications of new structural code requirements, fasteners, structural elements, et cetera? So any comments on that?
So when changing roofing materials, a lot of times new code requirements will kick in. one of the most expensive ones is going to be air conditioning stands, and we have to redo all those, and sometimes we have to put them up on curbs and things like that. I have a whole little section a little bit later in here that we're going to talk about what happens with that. But the key word is modern applicable code requirements. So a lot of times, whatever code applied when you first built your roof, now a new code's going to apply when you go in with a whole new roof with different materials. I hope that answers this question.
Yeah, I think that's great. Then someone else asked about, what about using a silicone roof?
So that's kind of another thing that we're going to get into. That is one of the beauties of a liquid applied roof coating, is that per the Florida Building Code, many times it's considered maintenance. So under the building code, when it's maintenance, not everything has to come up to code, and we can usually save a lot of money by not having to bring every single thing up on that roof up to code.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
That's it for now.
And just keep chiming in whenever you want, when you see something. When we actually get up on a roof, here are some of the flat roof kind of inspection notes. Here's the things that we want to think about and the big things that we're going to look for. First of all, pitch and slope. Like someone answered previously, I believe it was Mike, saying that no roof is truly flat, and we hope that to be the case. So this is how we measure slope on a roof, and we measure this in terms of rise over run. So rise, how far is it going up vertically, versus run, how far going horizontally. So this, you can see this portion of the roof goes up 3 inches over 12 inches. So this would be a 3 and 12 roof, which is kind of a pretty standard slope for most of our homes and things like that. So that's how we measure rise over run, and that's how we measure the pitch or slope of a roof. If we don't have slope, we see ponding water. So here's a case where either we don't have any slope, or the rest of the roof is kind of unfortunately pitched towards this ponding water area. But this is what happens when we don't have slope, and that's why we call it a low slope roof. Generally speaking, different manufacturers have different requirements for how quickly the water should be gone from a roof area like this. Rule of thumb is it should be gone within 48 hours. So if you get a big rain and more than 48 hours later, you've still got large amounts of water on your roof, that's a problem. And probably it's going to void whatever manufacturer's warranty you have. And that applies whether you have an existing mod bit roof, or in some cases it'll void a warranty for a roof coating that you happen to have on your roof too. So we want to be real careful about puddles. And there are certain coatings that don't care at all whether whether they're standing water, and certain manufacturers that it will not impact your warranty, but many of them it will impact your warranty. So we want to think and look to see what's happening with ponding water on our roofs. One of the big things we want to look at is our roof drains. So a lot of primary roof drain systems we have like this, it goes through the down through the center of the roof, and we can see if we have vegetation or palm trees around our buildings, we want to periodically inspect and have someone clean these. So don't just completely forget about the drains on your roof. We have, in many cases, emergency drains or secondary drainage. We have scuppers, like you can see in the top right of that photo. That's a scupper. So that's kind of an alternate way for water to get out. The trick to this is that sometimes scuppers are built too high off of the roof. And what would happen is, if water actually got up high enough to reach that scupper and drain out, the weight of all that water would cause the roof to collapse. I've been on more than one building where the scuppers are installed, just way too high, and they're never going to work. So here's an example of a roof that is, pretty badly flooded, and it just doesn't have good drainage. And you can see that a lot of water has been sitting up there for a while. So we must pay attention to our roof drainage and see what's happening with that. And it's a big deal. The other thing we're looking at is the condition of the roof membrane, especially with a mod bit roof. As it ages, like many of us, as it ages, it cracks and it gets wrinkles that don't go away. So it becomes more brittle over time. And when you're walking on a roof that's pretty well advanced in age, you can actually hear it cracking underneath your feet. It sounds like ice or little crystals under your feet. And that's actually the roof membrane cracking, because it's no longer pliable. Same thing up here, we see failed sealants and mastics. So as our sealants and mastics age, they lose that pliability, they start to crack. And if you, basically those cracks don't go away. So this is a sign that these components are reaching the end of their useful lives as you see that walking up. We talked about cracking. a lot of times we'll see granule loss. So many of these roofing systems, they're coated with sand or granules, and that's to help prevent UV rays from damaging them. So if you see excessive granule loss piled in a corner so it looks like a sandbox somewhere, that's an indication that the roof is starting to reach the end of its useful life. Okay, so those are some of the things there. These are some candidates that, you know, that basically we say, okay, this is probably a roof that we can coat pretty effectively and do a great job on it. So roofs lacking surface protection due to years of exposure. So granule loss, like we talked about, splitting roofs, so cracking that we see there. Once you start to see the fasteners backing out, and you know, that's a problem. And then roofs that are no longer under warranty. So you do want to consider whether or not your roof is still under warranty or not. If it's no longer under warranty, then awesome, no issues at all. Let's go ahead and coat this thing. If it is under warranty, then what you typically want to do is you want to talk with the manufacturer that holds the warranty on your roof and say, okay, here's what we want to do. Is this going to void our warranty? Yes, no, and have that discussion.
Hey, Andy, can we take a few more questions real quick?
Questions, please.
Sure. So first one from Alan is removal of an existing foam with silicone coating and replacement with built-up roof considered maintenance?
So my interpretation, not being your local building department, who is the authority on that, but my interpretation would be that is not maintenance, and that would be considered a new roof system.
And that's because you're literally changing the type of system. That's why.
That would be my interpretation. Carmelo or the the other roof consultants on here might have a different view, but that's what I think the building department's going to tell you. Okay,
great. The next question was, would an asbestos test be required for a 1987 single roof to be removed?
Great question. So a lot of people think that asbestos tests have something to do with the age of the building, and it doesn't. So I don't care if it was built in 1987 or if it was built in 2020. The federal requirements and state requirements for asbestos testing are still there. And little known fact, that they are applicable when you're doing re-roofing projects. Is it tested very often? It's not, but it is a requirement, and some jurisdictions, like over here on the West Coast in Pinellas County, they're getting very strict about it and starting to crack down on it.
Okay. Next question was, do we need an engineer to evaluate the capacity of the existing structural members if there's going to be a change in the roofing system?
Yes, but yes, anytime you're looking at adding more weight than the weight that is there now, you want to confirm that the weight that you're adding on there is not going to be more than what it was. And it's not really up to, you need a design professional to make that call. Maintenance man really shouldn't be making that call. Board member shouldn't really be making that call. And it comes down to the question of, okay, what's the existing weight? And so even that, sometimes you have to do a little bit of figuring. And a design professional in that case could include a licensed engineer or a registered architect for that kind of thing.
Okay, great. Two other quick ones. What's the life of the average flat roof?
Ooh. I'm gonna guess 30 years, but I want to hear, we have a roofing consultant or a Carmelo on the board. I'd like to hear what they have to say about that.
There are plenty of studies out there done independently, and the average life of a flat roof is on the modified bitumen, which is typical here in Florida. It's about 14 years if there is no maintenance. Okay. If there's maintenance, you can increase the service life at least by 50%. So it is important to consider that, and that's another topic. But what's included in the warranty, all the warranties require the building owners to perform preventive maintenance on the roofs, and that's the responsibility of the building owner.
That's a great point, and that's a great little weasel word that's in many warranties. It is, you want to see what that warranty says about preventative maintenance and what is required. A lot of times they'll stick in things there that it has to be cleaned once a year, or else you don't get a warranty. The other thing that he brought up is, a lot of times whatever manufacturers say something's going to last, in Florida it does not last that long, just because we have so much UV exposure and so much thermal expansion and contraction on our materials. Things just don't last as long in Florida as they do in lots of other places.
Right. There was a follow-up question that someone asked, is it comparable lifespan for a shingle roof, or is it longer or shorter?
Generally speaking, a shingle roof is going to have a shorter lifespan than a mod bit roof. But you can also get shingles in different thicknesses that are will last different periods of time just because it takes that long to burn through a shingle.
Right. Yeah. Unfortunately, a lot of these, the answers are a lot like the legal people. It depends. Right.
It depends. That's right. It's my favorite sentence.
Yeah. And then the one last one was, would you recommend having a moisture survey done prior to coating a roof?
Absolutely, and that's a must. You absolutely have to get a moisture survey done, because what happens if there is moisture hiding down inside there, a lot of times you're going to put a roof coating on and it will cook that moisture out, and it turns into a gaseous turns it into a gas, a vapor, and it will find a way to get out of the roof. So it's going to eventually cook underneath there. You'll see big blisters and bubbles in the roof coating, or it'll just pop it outright. So a moisture survey is, for most reputable contractors, they won't apply a coating without that. And most manufacturers' warranties will require some sort of moisture survey to get that done. Yep.
Great. Thank you, Andy.
You're very welcome. We'll keep going here. Good questions. Thank you guys so much for asking them. AC racks. So this is something that we need to look at on our older buildings. Things built in the 60s and 1970s. Sometimes I go out and look at these and I see condensing units like this sitting directly on the roof membrane. So no rack at all, and not even attached to anything except, with the hoses and pipes. So we want to think about, okay, is there a rack? And if there's a rack, is the unit actually attached and strapped down to that rack? And then is the rack attached to that building? For example, you might see a condensing unit that's sitting directly on top of 4x4 lumber, but the lumber is not attached to anything. So that's can obviously present a problem if you have a high wind event and all of a sudden your condensing units from your condo are blowing through the windows of the condo next door. So those are the types we want to think about and look at when we look at AC racks. Common repair techniques and what do we usually do? For asphalt shingles, we pretty much can use bowl or roofing mastic on everything. It works everywhere, all the time. 60% of the time, it works every time. Just kidding, it works a lot. So we have our roofing deal here. We see the shingles again, and if we have pops in here, a lot of times we can use something called bowl or roofing mastic. So this gentleman here is applying bowl, and he's going to adhere this shingle down. Maybe that shingle's blown off, and he's got to do this one. We say it's like duct tape because we use it on everything. It is very sticky. Don't get it on your clothing. It'll never come off. This woman is very brave. She's re-roofing her house while wearing a Snuggie. So I mean, the next thing, I think the next photo in the slide is going to be just roofing mastic all over that Snuggie and her having to throw it away because you can't even wash that stuff out. It's just a prediction. But shingle roofs, plan on using bowl to pretty much lock down whatever it is that came up. Metal roofs, most commonly, we can clean and coat these. So this is usually a great candidate for a coating type system. And I know not a lot of us have metal roofs here. It's more along the other areas, but this is an example of what it looks like. So you can see, obviously, on the right side is undone, and then the left side is the finished product. So it can make it look a lot better, and it can really expand the lifespan. I'm just flipping through some pictures here. Here we are back to our mod bit roofs. Most of the time for a mod bit roof, the repair is going to be cutting out and patching. So we get a leak in one area, we can cut out that area and then put new materials back in that area. So pretty simple for these sections. Let's see here. Some of the different repair methods that we're using now that we didn't used to have, 20, 30 years ago is we have the liquid applied roof coating systems. So, surprise, it's the title of the presentation that we're talking about today. Here's some liquid roof coatings. You can see here, in this case, they coat all the seams of this roof with a primer layer, and then they're going to go back and flood coat over that whole system. So that's kind of what a liquid applied roof system or roof coating system looks like in practice. If the entire roof is deteriorated, there are usually 3 separate approaches. We can cover with SPF, spray polyurethane foam. we can cover only with this liquid applied roof coating that I just showed you, or we just tear the roof off and start over. One of these methods is doesn't trigger new code compliance. And we've already talked about what that is. Liquid applied coating is considered maintenance. It doesn't need to meet the code requirements, but an SPF system will, and obviously tearing off the roof will. So I'm going to talk about SPF foam for a second here, because we used to see it a lot, and I'm starting to see kind of a resurgence in some areas of, and so people I just want you to understand what this is. Let's talk about what it's not. It's not cheesecake. I know it looks like cheesecake. It looks delicious. It looks edible. Do not eat it. Okay, see, there it is. This is SPF foam. It looks just like cheesecake. You can't eat it. I'm sorry. SPF stands for spray polyurethane foam. It's different components. It creates a closed cell foam on top of the roof. And closed cell meaning water cannot penetrate it. So you put that down on top of the roof, and it basically makes an awesome waterproof layer. Normally, you will coat SPF foam with some kind of coating to prevent UV rays from hitting it and from deteriorating it. So that's what it stands for, SPF. It's a 2-component foam. It's liquid, but then when it comes out of the gun, there's a chemical reaction, and then it makes a closed cell foam. And like we say there, we finish it with an elastomeric coating on top of that foam for UV protection. People in Florida, we act like we don't know what SPF foam is, but we actually see it fairly often. And this is a picture of what it looks like. And I'm trying to see if I'm ringing any bells with anybody, if they know what major thing that we see in Florida is covered with SPF foam. Here's the first picture. Maybe you can't see it well enough. What about now? Can anybody tell what this is now? And tell me why it's orange? We'll keep going here. It's the space shuttle. Congratulations. So the external tanks on the space shuttle are coated with the SPF foam, just like what we just talked about, just like what we put on our roofs. And it does that to insulate the area from the extreme temperature changes. Can anybody tell me why it's orange? Anybody have an SPF roof that sat out in the sun before? It's orange because that's what happens when UV rays hit this area. It turns it orange. It kind of starts to deteriorate it. So if you go to NASA today, they have the fake space shuttle sitting out in front of the building. They've got this big orange tank, and that's supposed to be SPF foam. The trivia here is, when NASA first started with the space shuttle program, they actually painted the SPF foam white to protect it from the UV rays, but then they had to use so much paint, it was really, really heavy, and they saved something like several thousand pounds of weight by no longer painting it. So in the early pictures of the early space shuttle program, you'll see a white fuel tank like this, and then later on they just stopped painting it, and that's why it's orange. And that's, if you have an SPF foam system on your roof and it's not coated, it will eventually degrade and turn orange just like this. And there's your trivia for the day. Do we have questions on this section before going on?
Yeah, we've got a few. What is the code in regard to insulation? If you have 2-inch, must you install 2-inch on a re-roof, or can you go back with 1-inch?
Yeah, I am not at all an expert on roof insulation. I would defer to the roof consultant or Carmelo on this one.
You cannot go back with less than what you have, and you can grandfather what you have. If it's new construction, it varies, but they're going now to requiring R30 on new construction.
Okay, great.
Thanks. And I know I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just saying, I know I'm mentioning those gentlemen specifically, but other panelists, if they know the answers, feel free to jump in. I know there's an architect here as well, so yeah, I'm not trying to exclude them.
This Carmelo, I would agree that, yeah, it needs to at least meet what's there and then meet code. So R19 is typically minimum for a roof, and yeah, so it would at least need to meet what's there if you're redoing a roof replacement.
Hey, Carmelo, your volume's a little low. Please check your settings on your A and V. It's a little difficult to hear you. Thank you.
Great. And then there was another question that said, back to the question before as a follow-up about, code requirements. What other things might need to be considered if you're having to meet code if you're putting a new system in, besides like possibly an AC condenser, electrical conduit? Is there do you have a short list there? Or?
In my experience, the most frequent thing that I see that's a problem is the AC racks, having to install all those new racks. If somebody else has something they want to add, they can, but that's what I've personally seen.
Curbs, you know, your one typical is roof access hatch. They're typically sitting too low, and I'm seeing now in the re-roofing, most of them have to be raised a little bit. The other thing that to consider is the OSHA requirements. Having the safety rails on your building, that's another thing that needs to be considered.
I mean, I know I've seen it a few times, just the rails and stairways up. If you've got cooling towers and all the infrastructure related to that can be, you know, can add up to more than you think.
The scuppers would be another thing to be concerned about. If the heights change with the new roofing system. And then regarding the loads would be similar to the insulation. If the loads don't change, then the structure should be grandfathered in. For instance, if you have a shingle roof or mod bit roof and you want to go to tile, that would add new load to the structure, and you would need to have that analyzed. I don't think it's too often seen on a flat roof because you're typically going back with a similar system, or a system that may be lighter, from like a coal tar roof maybe to a mod bit. So, but regardless, it would come up under plan review. And if you have a professional involved, like a roofing consultant or an engineer, that'll definitely be discussed during the production, the spec production phase.
Great. And then we've continued the query list here of how long will that roof last, with 2 more types of roofs. So how long will a coal tar pitch roof last, and then what about copper roofs?
Okay. The non-scientific answer would be copper roof lasts a really long time. For the other roof, I'm guessing it's going to be about the same as a mod bit, but one of the other panelists, feel free to jump in.
Definitely, metal roofs have the longest lifespan, and usually you use coal tar pitch when there is that flat, slope. But it also has its lifespan. And out of the built-up roof assemblies is the one that lasts the most because it's self-healing. It kind of melts in itself, and any cracks or any deterioration, it kind of melts in itself. So coal tar pitch roofs last a long time. The only problem is that now they have to be applied in cold. Not everybody has the kettles to apply coal tar pitch systems, and it's also carcinogenic. So those are things to consider when you're looking at a coal tar pitch roof.
This is why us property managers love roofing consultants. So guys like Ricardo from RMS can come out, and I think you mentioned earlier that you can do assessments, and I think someone asked about that. And roofs are kind of like snowflakes. Everyone's unique, and you really do need a consultant or an expert to help you figure it out, particularly if it's more than 10 years old, because it all depends on the warranty, which you originally had, how well it's been maintained. We've had a few near hurricanes and storms over the last few years that have caused different issues. So again, that's where guys like Ricardo are a dream for us, because we can't keep up with all of it and begin to understand it at the same level. So
thank you.
I think that's good for now.
Great. Nobody had questions about the space shuttle. That's fine. I didn't want questions about that anyway. So SPF foam, I'm just going to wrap up with this part on the SPF foam, just to say that it provides great insulation, more so than just a coating system. And it's not like I sell SPF foam. I don't care. I'm just telling you about it because not a lot of people know about it. So SPF is a closed cell foam system. Now, another option besides SPF foam is much more commonly seen, which is just to cover that roof only with a liquid applied roof coating. And, let's look at that for a second. So these gentlemen are applying a liquid applied coating to the roof. You can see them rolling it out there. Obviously, it costs less than a new roof. That's why we care. If it didn't cost less, then we'd just get a new roof. But it can extend the existing roof's service life, you know, depending on the material, it can really max out the life way more than it would have been otherwise. And it can consist of all different kinds of coatings. It might just be a very thick acrylic coating, an acrylic paint system, which, you know, doesn't have much water resistance, but it'll help prevent the UV rays from damaging the system. It might be a liquid applied silicone system. It could be a polyurethane or an elastomeric or another type of elastomeric coating system. Do I say what elastomeric is? Yes. There's my dad. There's Professor Schrader telling us again, what's elastomeric coating? People use the term elastomeric to say it's a specific material. It's not a specific material. Elastomeric is a technical term that really just means a material is very stretchy. It can stretch to 2 times the original length and still recover dimensions. So it'll stretch way out and then it'll stretch back. So when we're talking about, you know, elastomeric coatings, we have to keep in mind that that's just a general term meaning something is stretchy. It doesn't imply that it's any one specific chemical formulation of coating. But those are the different types we see. Here's some different manufacturers that make these types of coatings. So you'll see that keyword elastomeric there on the right. It's an elastomeric roof coating. In the center, that would be a silicone from Geico, and then on the left, that's a, you know, another different kind here. So just depending on your performance expectations, what you want it to do, and on how much you want to spend, that's going to dictate what type of liquid applied coating material you install on your roof. So here is an example of a Carnac system. And I'm going to ask your next question here. So get your keyword ready. If you look on here, it says high solids silicone. So I'd like someone to tell me what that means when we say high solids coating. What are we talking about? What's high? What's solids? What's inside here? And what's so special about something that's high solids? As we're waiting for questions, I'm going to go to my next slide. I'm going to say, which would you rather drink? So I'm going to give you a tip here. So here's option 1. This looks pretty delicious, and I'd be down for this. This is option 2. So everybody's thinking about which one they want to drink. I'm going to give you a hint here. Option number 1 here, this has high solids. Got a lot of good stuff inside there. This one looks nasty. Don't want to drink it. So high solids mean what is the solid content? With a silicone system, with a high solid silicone, what that means is you're going to have solids content in terms of upwards of could be 90%. And Rudy, correct me if I'm wrong on that number. But and what that means is that's the good stuff that's left on the roof after the coating dries or cures. So with most of our standard paints, it's going to be like, if someone goes out and paints your building with an acrylic coating, that's going to be usually less than 50% solids, meaning when it dries, if it's one coating when it's wet, it's going to dry to less than half of that thickness when it dries out. When it's very high solids like this, it might be 90 or 95% high solids, meaning when it dries, you still have 90 to 95% of that coating thickness left. So high solids means that it's really good stuff. And I'm just trying to get you familiar with terms that you're going to see when we're talking about this. So high solids means it's a delicious chunky milkshake. Drink that, not this. Okay. We talked about what high solids mean, all the different kinds of materials that we can use. So silicone is, you know, generally a great material to use, but it's also usually the most expensive. So you have to look at, what do I expect this to do? How long do I want it to last? And then you can start thinking about, okay, how much do I want to pay? And then you sort out the material. So we've had several questions about the Florida Building Code and what can we do. Usually the Florida Building Code allows us to recover the roof once, meaning if I have a shingle roof on my house, I can cover that with a new application of shingles, and that's okay. What I can't do is I can't then cover that with a second application of shingles sometime later. So the building code allows you to cover once. If it's still bad, you have to tear it off. Now, if I've recovered my roof once and then I want to put a liquid coating on it, that is usually considered maintenance, not a new roof. So none of those building code requirements usually will kick in. Okay, so that's something that we want to think about, and that's part of the beauty of these liquid applied roofs. We talked about how you don't have to raise air conditioning stands and how that's awesome. You don't have to redo the curbs. This gentleman mentioned the roof hatches, you know, so there's all kinds of things that can kick in once the new building code requirement kicks in. How does it compare to re-roofing cost? Many times it's going to be 1/3 or less. A lot of times it will come in as 1/4. So if a new roof costs $10 a square foot, to remove and replace, a coating system might be $2.50 a square foot, might be $3 a square foot, somewhere along those lines. So it's usually a pretty big cost savings difference, and that's why their popularity has kind of exploded within the last 10 years. Out of the primary approaches, we talked about coating it with SPF foam. We talked about only coating with liquid applied. Obviously, option 3 is tear the roof off and start over. You can't coat every roof. And if a roof has gone so long and it's leaking everywhere and has moisture all through it, that's really not a good candidate for coating. So when you're considering recoating a roof, you have to address it while it's still in manageable and serviceable condition. Don't show me a roof that's been leaking for years and say, yeah, can we coat this? And I'll say, no. If you talked to me 5 years ago, possibly, but not now. So not every roof is a good candidate.
Andy, let me interrupt right there real quick. Carmelo, how many times have you gone to a property, or Ricardo, how many times have you gone to a property and they've said, and you've said, you really need to redo this roof? And they'll usually say, oh, we really don't have the money right now. And then you go back 2 or 3 years later, and then you say, well, the time has expired. Now you are no longer a candidate for a roof coating. Now you have to rip off the whole thing. Ricardo, you're on mute.
Oh, many times. Timing is everything. You need to really get the roof at the right time in order to restore it. You let it go too long, and there's only one option but to tear it off. We see it very, very often.
The expiration of your roof, if it's 15 years, like Ricardo said, it really accelerates towards the end of that lifespan. So in 6 months, the roof could be fine. In another 6 months, if it's at the end of that lifespan, that expiration of that roof can really, really, really accelerate. So it's something to keep in mind. Carry on, Andy.
Thanks. I know everybody here can read, so I'm not going to read this to you, but this is just some of the things that we keep in mind when we're looking at, okay, re-roofing versus restoration, what's going to happen. So some of the things there. This is a real life example, pretty large recoating job at a hospital in Tarpon Springs. So this was 49,000 square feet. It was built up, and basically they were looking at $20 per square foot to remove and replace, and it ended up being $5 per square foot to simply coat the roof system. So that's an example there. Like we say here, it's usually 1/3 to 1/4 the cost, depending on what system that you go back with.
Hey, Andy, can I jump in with another couple questions?
Yes.
Okay, so Philip mentioned that he has a flat roof building and that he has a maintenance contract where the maintenance company comes out and recovers 1/4 of the roof every year. So their suggestion is that, hey, every 4 years we effectively have a new roof. Does that sound like does that sound like a reasonable approach? And would you recommend that?
So I like the approach if they just don't have the money to do it all at one time. My concern when you start kind of splitting up parts of a whole is that now they're all on different life cycles. So I like that in the idea, if they're doing only a quarter at a time, okay, that's going to be 16 years before the entire roof is recoated. And then I guess, potentially you could go back and look at the oldest area. But my concern is just when things are not all on the same life cycle, it makes things much more difficult to figure out a good plan of action when things start going wrong. That would really be my only concern, but one of the other panelists might have a different thought.
No, I agree.
Good.
Yeah, I agree as well.
Smart man.
Then we had a couple of green questions. Someone asked, what's greener, foam or liquid?
Oh God. Okay, so I don't know.
Okay.
That's a great question. You like my
All
honest
right.
answer?
I will tell you that a roof coating is more green than a tear off, because there is so much of the roofing material that has to go into landfills because it's not recyclable. There's actually some traction to pass a bill that before a re-roof is completed, that it actually has to be evaluated to see if a roof coating is a better option. I think it was something like 30% of the landfill is actually roofing material from a construction standpoint, because there's no way to recycle that material. So a silicone option or any roof coating option is definitely a greener option than a tear off.
So the specific question was about foam versus coating, and the answer, now that I'm thinking about it, is the answer is that simply coating is going to be more green. And the reason for that is when you have a foam system, that will kick in all those code requirements. So much more work will potentially be required, and much more redoing of things. So the coating system, because it's basically the least invasive option, it also would end up being the most green and least disruptive option.
Okay, great. Thanks. And then another question was, what should people think about if they're considering putting solar panels on the roof? What are some of the things they need to think about as they're evaluating that potential?
So from my perspective, the main thing that I need to think about is, okay, now I'm poking holes in the roof. What are they going to do to waterproof this and to keep it to keep it from leaking on me? Because anytime you start doing these aftermarket alterations, I see them go poorly many times. So that would be my concern. Obviously, you would need a licensed roofer to be in on that, and I would want basically a registered architect or a licensed engineer to bless whatever it is they're trying to do. Not someone that the contractor hires, but my own design professional to look at this and say, okay, does this make sense? And is the system that they're putting in going to be sustainable in terms of, is it something that we can actually maintain the waterproofing so that it doesn't cause its own leak and cause its own problems?
From an engineering perspective, you would need to have, that is definitely adding new load to the roof system, to the structure. There's overturning and all kinds of stuff happening structurally. So that would need to be analyzed, designed, permitted, etc. Regarding the roofing, you would want to contact the roofer that installed the system that's in place, as it may affect warranty by punching new holes into the roof. So that would be an important item to look into as well.
Great. And then one other from Handy asked, can you replace your flat roof with a metal roof?
Generally speaking, not really. A metal roof is designed to be a sloped roofing system. So you're not really going to replace a flat roof with that. It would be a mess, is the short answer, because you'd have to kind of build up a system to give yourself slope. Could you do it? Sure, you can do anything with money, but it would be very expensive, and probably you would end up finding that it's not worthwhile. Yeah,
you would need to build a truss system on these current condos or flat. You'd likely need to have a truss system built and all that analyzed, and in order for the metal roof to work. It would change, obviously, the look of the building, but you couldn't put it on the flat roof.
And like Carmelo was saying, you start changing the look, now you get into it's an architectural change, and do your building's bylaws even allow that?
Great. So then one last question here was, with a new roof, when should you be, if someone's putting in a new roof, at what point should they be coating? 5 years, 10 years?
Well, it depends. It depends completely on what type of roof system you have, because they all have different lengths. Different types of roofing systems, whether it's mod bit, a metal roof system probably lasts for 50 years. A mod bit roof system, like Ricardo was saying, probably 15, 20 years. So basically, you can't really think about it in terms of years, but you can think about it in terms of, okay, what percentage of this roof's useful life is probably left? So, once I started getting down to the last quarter of the expected life of my roof, that's when I would personally start thinking more directly about recoating, because I want to coat this before it has gone too long. And like we talked about, when the roof has reached the end of its useful life, when it's leaking actively, leaking all throughout the roof, it can no longer be coated. So that's when you want to think about it.
Great. Thanks, Andy.
Hey, Andy, everyone's asking about having a copy. Please email me, rudy@moneyandpainting.com, and we can provide the slides to you so you can share it with a board member or some people that aren't on this call. Also, we'll probably be doing this call again in December, so stay tuned for that invite. But if you do want a copy of the slides, please reach out to me. I'll put my contact information in the chat.
Yeah, I don't know, Rudy. Nobody asked any questions about the space shuttle thing. Nobody seemed very interested in that. So I just honestly don't know whether or not they deserve the slides at this point.
And Andy, not to put any additional pressure on you, but we are recording this. So Rudy, one other thing we could offer is we'll be uploading this to YouTube and sharing that with attendees that way as well.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Jonathan.
So this nice little green slide here, this is like when you go to the hotels and they say that they're doing this green initiative. So, you know, they don't want to wash your sheets and towels. And I always think to myself, it's not because you're green. You just don't want to wash my towels again. It's kind of the same thing here. You know, yes, it's green, but it also ends up saving everybody money. And money is generally a larger motivating factor. What can it do? It can reduce the peak cooling, especially whatever that top level is. So whatever your penthouse level is, a white reflective coating will generally work wonders to reduce the HVAC requirements on that top floor. And of course, it also reduces the thermal cycling that roof sees. So with that heating up and cooling down and all that stress and strain on it, it takes a lot of that off the roof, as well as contributing to the lowering of the AC systems. We say it's sustainable, and to a certain extent that's true, especially with silicone systems. You know, they last a really long time and they can be recoated very easily. It just has to be cleaned up. So it's not a system that's just going to completely die on you. That's what I personally like about silicone products. It's not the only product, but it's one of the best that I look for. So there's definitely the green component of that, and my apologies to any LEED certified people that could probably explain this much better than I can, but I always just relate it back to money. What are we getting into? Is it worth it? Leak proof warranties. So depending on your coating system, depending on your applicator and who the material manufacturer is, you can get all different types of warranties. Some coating systems will actually have a leak proof warranty saying, okay, not only will this protect your roof, it's actually going to make it completely watertight. And if for some reason it does leak, that's covered under this warranty. This is the kind of thing where you really want to review that warranty ahead of time. My suggestion is to forward it to a roofing consultant we got here, or an architect or an engineer, specifically somebody who works on repairing these roofs all the time, because you want to understand what that warranty is saying. And like we mentioned earlier, what are the maintenance requirements? A lot of these warranties have maintenance requirements, meaning something that you, the association, must do every year in order to maintain this warranty. Do you have to call out the manufacturer to do an inspection every year, and make little repairs here and there? Do you have to clean the roof every year? What do you need to do? But understand that, so that 10 years down the line, when you do have a warranty issue, you're not left out in the cold, because they can point to that one little line and say, oh, where's your documentation that you pressure washed this or cleaned it every single year? We don't see documentation. Sorry, call our lawyers. So those are the types of things we want to think about when we're looking at warranties. And they're great, but we need to understand what we're getting into. If anyone's ever watched air conditioning systems repair people working on a roof, the roof gets very hot and their tools get very hot. So a lot of times they don't like to set down their tools on the roof, because then it'll make their tools super hot and they can't hold them. If you've ever personally watched the AC repair guy take a screwdriver and go and stick it down into the roof to hold it so that it doesn't get the tool hot, you're really missing out. That's a real thing. It happens all the time. And that's why I actually put this on here, because you get calls that the AC guy punctured the system. Is this covered under my warranty? No, it is not covered under your warranty. But the good news is it can be easily be repaired by recoating. So lots of things can ruin your warranty. Ponding water, like we talked about, that's a problem. We need to look at that and make sure it's not happening. So we want to think about, you know, okay, is this something that should be covered or is it something that's not covered? So things like punctures, things like tenant improvements, people installing a satellite dish on their roof and you didn't know about it. Well, they put a hole in the roof, that's not a warranty issue. So those are the different types of things that you want to think about. Like we said here, not every roof is a candidate. We want to get to it relatively early on and start thinking about it and look at what our warranty is left, if any. Okay. Before I get into my quiz, did we have questions on that last section?
We had a handful of questions that came in that like some of them applied to it. So Virginia asked, should I fear chemical fumes for my residents? So
the green movement has caused a lot of manufacturers to be very cognizant of whether or not something is creating fumes. And a lot of times they will have special products that are, you know, very, very low fumes, or they're made to be applied in areas where you have residents around. So that's going to be a great question, but it's going to depend a lot on what the specific product is that you're using. And you know, like we say, it depends. But yes, it's great to ask.
Okay. Someone asked, are there liquid coatings that can be applied to shingle roofs to extend the life?
Yes, there are. You can actually put liquid silicone over shingles, you know, and that's the great thing about silicone is silicone sticks to anything. It's going to look terrible, and it might not completely waterproof it because it's tough to get under those nooks and crannies, but they do make coating systems for shingle roofs. Yes, it's not necessarily aesthetically pleasing, and it's tough to seal that, you know, because unlike a flat roof, you don't really have a great solid surface that you can suck it down to.
Right, and it was a similar question. What about tile roofs? Is there any kind of coating that is applicable for tile roofs?
Absolutely. So you can coat tile roofs with many of the same systems, and that's going to help improve the life expectancy. It's just very tough to waterproof a tile roof by coating on top of it.
Okay. Then I had a couple of questions about are walking pads popular on flat roofs in Florida, and in general, how do you protect the roof when contractors are having to go you know, on the roof?
Sure, walking pads are definitely a thing. And usually when they put walking pads on a roof where they're coating it, that will be actually a thickened area. So they'll put down more coating in that area, and they'll usually do it with a contrasting color so that it's easy to see where the walking pads are. So that those areas will be specially reinforced.
Okay, great, thank you.
Go ahead and get into our little pop quiz here. So if you guys don't mind, please type in your responses, and we'll see what you come back with, and we'll go through a couple of these questions. Number one, which of the following is a commonly used roofing system in Florida? I've got a mod bit system, I've got a reinforced concrete block roof system, asphalt shingles, or both A and C, which is D or Delta. Let's see. What do you guys think? Type it in.
I've got A and C from Ryan, and A from Mark Graham, and D from Philip, and C from Shannon. D, nobody's picking A. That's
Did you say Ryan? Ryan called out both A and C?
Ryan said A and C, yeah.
Nice, great job, Ryan. Okay, Ryan gets a gold star. He's correct.
Ryan was the first and rightest one.
You know what? All along, I had a good feeling about Ryan doing it, and he did it. I mean, he impressed us all. Ryan's correct. A and C. Mod bit cap sheet, that's a roofing system. Asphalt shingles is also a system. Masonry, not so much a roofing system. We can use reinforced concrete as a deck, but usually that's not going to be the actual roof, and masonry is not a roof system. It's that masonry is normally a vertical system, not a horizontal system like we need for a roof. So good job, Ryan. Everybody else better knock it next time.
We did have a few other people that got it right too. Gary got it right. Joanne got it right as well. So
you know, stop trying to take the glory away from Ryan. Name at least 2 repair or recovering materials that we've discussed. So what kind of things did we say that we can recover it in? And what can we use to repair things? It gave you several different options. Could you name a couple if you don't mind, please?
So we've got polyurethane foam and silicone from Joanne. Shannon says bull. Alan says tar and a tarp. Philip says high solid silicone. Ryan's back with silicone coating, elastomeric coating.
Philip said high solid silicone?
Yeah.
Okay, that, you know what? Philip was the dark horse in this. Philip came out on top. Good job, Philip. High solid silicone is correct. Tar, yeah, you can use tar in certain areas. Somebody else said tar, and cool. Yep, good job, guys. All right, true or false? Per the Florida Building Code, a roof can be recovered 2 times before complete tear off is required. What do you guys think? This one should be good. Shouldn't even have to think about it. What do you think?
Well, I love the answers. True, false, true, false, true, false, true, false, true, false, true.
Did anybody
false.
answer it depends?
I swear to you, that's exactly the order in which the answers were. Alternated true and false.
All right, well, the answer to this one is false. The building code lets us recover a roof 1 time and only 1 time. Can't cover a roof twice. Now, the difference is if we're talking about just applying a coating, that doesn't count as a recovering, and so it doesn't apply, but we can do it 1 time. Now, here's the bonus points, and I'm looking to see if Ryan can come through. Who would that directly benefit, and why do we want to do that? Why can't we just keep recovering a roof endlessly over and over? Why can't we put 10 new roofs on a building? I will give you a hint. There's a certain profession that goes on your roofs who really doesn't want the roof to collapse underneath them.
Tim came in first with weight, followed immediately by Darcy and Alan and Mark, and everybody's getting that one. Wait.
Great job. Great job. We limit our roof recoverings to once per building because what would end up happening is roofs get really heavy. Firefighters are working on the roofs start collapsing underneath them. So that was kind of the impetus, you know, when basically that started happening, we really started paying attention to this. Now, obviously you have the common sense of, can things collapse under the weight? Sure, they can, but especially when a building is on fire and structural components are deteriorated, even that weight matters even more and things start happening. So specifically with firefighters, that's one of the things that was the impetus for them saying, okay, you can only do it once, guys. Okay, elastomeric liquid applied coatings used on both exterior walls and roofs. Is this true or false? Do we use them only on roofs, or can we also put them on our walls? What do you guys think? So we got one application that's going to be horizontal, one application that's going to be vertical.
Joanne says true. David says true. Michelle says false. Abe is very enthusiastically saying true.
Abe, good job, Abe. I appreciate your enthusiasm, and I appreciate your correct answer. So it's true. We use elastomeric coatings on both exterior walls, and we put them on our roofs. Now remember, elastomeric is a general term. It just means it's something that's stretchy. It can stretch. So here's the trick. Elastomeric coatings on exterior balcony ceilings. And I'm going to answer this one for you. We need to be very careful. We don't ever really want to put an elastomeric coating on a ceiling situation, because what will happen is water will usually get trapped underneath it and it can't come out. So it's okay for horizontal applications on roofs. It's okay on walls, but be very careful about putting it on balcony ceilings. And we still see to this day, occasionally somebody will get a smart idea that, oh, hey, it's waterproofing, I'll put this everywhere, but you don't really want to put it on a ceiling, okay? All right, we're coming to the end here of my quiz, and you guys are doing great so far. So what does Bart say? Spray foam coatings can insulate a roof, prevent moisture intrusion, and oh my God, it can improve cell phone reception. So is this true or false? Can spray foam coatings really do all 3 of these things?
Tim and Darcy, with the same last name, must be Jeopardy fans because they answered before you even finished answering the question. Asking the question.
What are they saying?
They said false. And
they said,
and Alan followed up very quickly within a minute and said false. Joanne says true. But then Matthew. Most people are saying false.
I want to single out Alan. Alan, thanks for sticking with us and coming thus far with us through this journey. It's false. It doesn't do anything for your cell phone reception, but fortunately, spray foam coatings can insulate the roofs really well, and they prevent moisture intrusion, not just from the closed cell phone, but from the waterproof coating that we usually put on top of spray foam when we do that. Man, nice. You guys did great. Quiz results pass. Everybody, you did amazing.
And very quick as well. There were some very speedy responses.
Well,
so.
I appreciate their quick responses, and it's a big, it makes me feel much more motivated when I do get responses. So thanks guys for doing that. Let's see what we got here. Do we have other questions on my presentation before you move on to the next step? If you don't,
many of us did appreciate your space shuttle information, so I don't want that to go unnoticed. It actually was excellent information.
You know what? Okay, we can send out the slides.
Hey.
Well, guys, I appreciate you having me, and you know that's it for my presentation. And I believe now you can move on to the next section with questions for the other panelists.
Right. So thank you very much, Andy. That was great. Very educational, very helpful for everybody.
You're very welcome.
So why don't I'll just ask a few questions of everybody. I'll start with Carmelo. So Carmelo, on roof coatings, have you seen any trends, and what are your thoughts about roof coating trends?
I don't know about trends. I think it's definitely useful for extending the life of the roof, and I think Munyon does a good job at it. So perhaps each system and each condition is different, so obviously it would need to be reviewed, but we certainly would consider it on particular roofs.
Are there certain materials that you see are kind of going out of vogue in newer systems or coating types that are becoming more popular? Or?
I couldn't answer that. I don't know that that's I have an answer for that, but other than we do use it. Sometimes we are using the coatings, but we often get called in for my scope of work. We often get called in for new roofs, so we see that more often, me in particular. So.
Right. Are there any best practices you would recommend if someone is considering the idea that, hey, maybe we should be coating our roof? What they should do to make sure they get good advice and head down the proper direction?
Yeah, I think Andy mentioned some of those earlier. If the roof's in bad condition, of course it needs to be assessed, and if it's in bad shape, then it can't be coated. So, you just need to call in myself, Ricardo, and even Munyon. They have a ton of experience, and have them look at the roof and determine whether it's proper or not. So,
great, thanks, Carmelo. Next question is for Lisa. So I think we talked about this earlier, Lisa Elkin at Alliance Bank. So one of the big problems a lot of people run into is we just don't have the money for this. So I know you've helped us out at a lot of different places with this. So what options might the bank offer for trying to deal with a financial issue?
Well, most importantly is making sure before you even go down the road of a loan is getting someone like Paula, your association attorney, involved, because there have been times where we were working with an association, and one of the first things I asked them is, does your association have the ability to borrow money? Of course we do. Well, sometimes they don't, and they need to make sure that they get their attorney involved. Another reason to get your attorney involved is depending on the size of the loan, the project involved with the loan, it may require a membership vote. And you may be wondering how you're going to be able to get that membership vote to move forward on the loan. So someone like Jonathan with Vinium Software, he offers electronic voting. So that could be another option. So once you've identified that you do have the ability to borrow money, then we have a pretty streamlined approach for an association to get what's called a term sheet. So we only look at 3 key financials. We look at a balance sheet, an income statement, and accounts aging. Because based on those 3 key financial statements, the president of our bank used to own a management company, and we know how precious time is. So just by getting those three documents, we're able to see if we can provide a term sheet. Speaking of the loan itself, our minimum amount is $100,000, and then we go up from there. We will do as high as $100 million because our bank only works with associations. So you may be saying, well, my association doesn't want to borrow money, or maybe the owners are concerned that's going to affect, have an effect on the interest in their association per se. And it doesn't really affect them trying to sell their unit, because there's no individual guarantees when it comes to lending to associations. But most importantly is that you have a strong financial condition. If your delinquency is high, let's say you have 100 units in your community and you have more than 10 that are 60 days or more past due, we as a bank would be concerned, because we're like, one of the biggest things when we're lending out money is what is the source of repayment. Well, we don't want your clubhouse, we don't want your pool as collateral. Really, all we can take as collateral are the assessments. So again, if you have owners and you're over 10%, then you need to kind of work with your attorney on the collections and making sure that you get below that 10% delinquency. Another thing we like to see is basically that the association, quote unquote, has some kind of skin in the game. So if their annual budget is 100,000 and they're only keeping, let's say, 10,000 in total combined bank accounts, that's not much liquidity. We usually like to see at least 20%. So in this case, it would be $20,000. So those are really two of the key credit metrics. And if we're able to issue a term sheet, then we're able to propose whether we're going to do a construction to permanent line of credit, where we do the construction period maybe up to 12 months, and then we term it out anywhere from 5 to 7 to 10, even up to 15 years. However, due with the uncertainty in the interest rate environment, a lot of times we don't fix that rate for the full 15 years. So there's a lot of different options, and most importantly is that a lot of these associations, they may not want to start their projects till April, but now is the time to kind of get prepared, making sure that you kind of have a very strong financial condition, and then also allowing at least 45 days from kind of the start of the process to actually getting the loan closed itself. Now that we're in the heart of hurricane season, we've also been doing some emergency lines of credit. We're already into the Greek letters of the alphabet, and we do offer emergency lines of credit. So if something were to impact an association, they would have those funds that they could draw from and have them available to pay the contractor. So there's a lot of different funding options.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Lisa. I think a lot of people kind of sometimes lose sight of the fact that, bank loans for roofs are absolutely a possibility. And I know that that's, particularly when something maybe unplanned happens.
Exactly.
Where there's an issue there. I hate to put you on the spot, but I'll have to ask, it seems like money's been cheaper than ever these days. So what kind of rates are people looking at for these kinds of loans?
Well, again, the two words are it depends. Because most importantly is if they have a very strong financial condition. Let's say they have 100 units and they maybe have one unit that's 60 days or more past due. Maybe their annual budget is 100,000. They're keeping 90,000 in deposit accounts. We can be as low as 4%.
Awesome. Great. Thank you for that. And also you mentioned one other thing that kind of early on that blew through, but I want to make sure we bring it up. And I'd ask John to respond to this. You mentioned, if there's a vote required, a membership vote required, that, being able to do that online is a good thing. And that is something that we absolutely have found to be, a lot of people when online voting came on, and people thought, oh, this will be great for elections. But the reality is the best use of it we found is really for member votes for things like this and for waiving reserves. And so, John, you want to talk about how you can, how you might be able to help in that area, or what other things can you do to help with your system as it relates to these kind of projects, of the issues you have to deal with these projects?
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks, Dan. Thanks, Lisa. Yeah, so with Vintium software, we actually just launched this feature on the 7th of October. So it's pretty new to us as well. But we've partnered with Zoom and essentially allow up to 300 residents to participate in a board meeting. And we also track who is in attendance, making sure that you've met things like quorum for these big time decisions. We found that, Zoom is kind of taking over when it comes to these decisions. A lot of people don't want to meet in close proximity, and especially if you've got a larger community and you just have a clubhouse or something to meet, you kind of are forced to have a hybrid or Zoom-based model. So this is definitely, something that people are becoming more and more accustomed to. We found that, you know, the first time you hold a meeting, you're a bit apprehensive, but second time around, you're like, oh, cool. I don't even have to put on pants and I could understand what's going on in the community. So it's kind of cool. And, you know, with Vintium, you don't have to download anything. We've got a mobile app so you could connect with your community, not only for documents, but also to join these meetings. So we found it to be pretty beneficial, and we've been getting some pretty good feedback so far.
Great. Is there anything else in the software that people should know about it that might, you know, help with dealing with projects like this, where there's a lot of communication required and documents that have to get signed and people want to have visibility and so on?
Yeah, absolutely. So we definitely have a document management system. We also have the ability to, you know, send out targeted messages. So if you've got a low-rise condo community with maybe 6 or 7 buildings, only one of those buildings is getting their roof restored. Well, then you could kind of send messages specific to those residents or to that building. We also have a kind of like a task management or service request function. So if there is a leak or if there is some sort of issue, residents could go ahead, submit that information again right to their mobile phone. They could snap a picture of the leak and then send that directly to management, and that's routed accordingly based off of the setup of the community.
Right. Great. Thank you very much. I guess, Lisa, you also mentioned some of the legal aspects of all this. So Paula, is there anything you'd want to add, you know, just even at a general level about the legal responsibility of the association to deal with roof and water leaks, and, you know, what happens if they don't do that effectively?
Yeah, so let me kind of take the segue where Lisa mentioned, definitely consult with your legal counsel with respect to obtaining a loan. While it is about 50-50 chance that your documents, typically your bylaws, your declaration, will provide that the board of directors has the ability to obtain a loan, but a lot of times you'll have a cap on that ability. Your older declarations, your older bylaws as well, you'll see that that cap is probably not as reasonable as the monetary amount we would expect to actually obtain a loan for. So definitely check your governing documents before you start talking to Lisa to obtain the loan for either the roof replacement or the roof sealing, and make sure that the association members don't have a right to vote upon that loan amount. It's not atypical to have those provisions. And again, you're typically going to see those in older documents, 20, 30 years. Also, when you fail as an association board of directors, or more likely your predecessors have failed to maintain the roof, make sure that you're doing the things that Andy discussed to extend the life of your roof. Those leaks, we had an issue just the other day where the leaks for the penthouse floor became quite extreme. And the money that the association had to spend for legal counsel to resolve those issues, and then the additional liability for the damage to the unit became catastrophic in a sense with respect to that particular unit owner suing, and then it became litigation, as opposed to making sure that you're maintaining your roof, making sure that your property manager is ascertaining what is necessary next. Again, using Andy or your other professionals to make sure that you have those seal coatings in place, or that you're monitoring what's going on with your roof. Andy also mentioned a couple times, and this happens frequently, when you have, again, what we see in older condominiums where your AC units are located, the handlers are located on your roof, and the association is not responsible for those. It's the individual unit owners. And there's been a lack of procedure or a lack of system in place to make sure that when those individual contractors enter the roof and they're puncturing that roof sealant. We've seen this many, many times just in the last year, where it's shocking. I didn't walk the roof myself, but I've seen pictures. Make sure you, from a legal aspect, from your attorney, have a procedure in place where owners know what that procedure is, if there's going to be access to the roof for the individual contractors for those AC units, to make sure that you're not jeopardizing your roof overall. And then as far as, again, loans go, contracts, whatever the dollar amount, confirm that your attorney has the ability to offer you an addendum process for your roofing contractor, your sealant contractor, whatever it is, for insurance requirements. Kind of sticks out for me, because oftentimes you'll have a basic contract, whether it's 30,000, 40,000, or upwards of $1.5 million, where we have clients that call us after something goes wrong versus calling us in advance just to add that additional addendum with respect to insurance and different liabilities and waivers.
Great, thank you very much. Next one I was going to ask Ricardo, so regarding roof inspections, this is how often and when should someone think about getting a roof inspection?
Well, the optimum would be twice a year, which is before rainy season and then after rainy season. A lot of people do it just once a year, which is a lot more than most. Those that do it once a year, it's more than most. So that's when I would recommend to do the roof inspections. Rudy had asked me to mention a statistic on the coatings and the restorations. 60 to 70% of the roofs that end up in the landfill should not be in the landfill, shouldn't have been replaced. On the flip side, 30% of the roofs that get restored should have never been restored. So why is such a big discrepancy on why roofs end up in the landfill or why roofs are being restored when they shouldn't? It is the lack of diagnostics. You have to have the right diagnostics to know what is right for your roofs. And don't just trust, and I have nothing against the contractors, but the contractors are there to sell you either a new roof, or if they're selling coatings, they're there to sell you coatings. It's really important that you get the right diagnostics. A good contractor will accept that not all roofs are candidates for restorations and not all roofs are candidates for replacement. It's what's best for you, the building owner, and that's the value that we bring to the table when we do all the diagnostics. And I'll share a quick story with you. We had a condo in Boca that it was 17 years old roof in decent shape. It looked like a good candidate for restoration. We did the moisture survey, and the moisture survey came that the lightweight concrete was dry. However, when I saw that it was lightweight concrete, I wanted to make sure that the roof system was properly attached to the lightweight concrete or secured to the lightweight concrete. We went and did some bell chamber test, which is a test that checks the wind uplift capacity of the roofing system. And they started failing at half the pressure that was required by the wind uplift calculations. So we presented that information to the building owner and recommended that the roof, instead of being restored, which could have been because the lightweight was dry, to be replaced, because the last thing they want is to invest $500,000 on a roof restoration, and then the next year it can come by and your roof is on the parking lot and 8 floors of your buildings are completely wet. So the right diagnostics is super important for the restoration. I'm a big proponent of roof restoration when it's the right thing to do.
Great, thanks, Ricardo. I think that was one of the questions I was going to ask next was, what are some of the common things that, you know, a novice or even experienced property manager might not see that a roof consulting expert like yourself might see that would make a huge difference in this? And that's one great example right there where, you know, the system's not fastened effectively. Anything else you want to share as an example?
Well, as a rule of thumb, if the system is mechanically attached, I would go that step further to do some bell chamber or bonded pool test. If the roof is fully adhered, most likely will be will keep the integrity of the attachment, but it doesn't hurt. Really, the cost of the testing is minimum compared to what the consequence could be.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ricardo. So then, Rudy, yeah. Oh, I thought somebody said something.
Yes, I just wanted to interject something here because I know Ricardo now for a few years now, and one of the reasons why I wanted him on this panel I was glad to see that he was recruited for it, is that he has 30 years with a manufacturer, not just a roofing company that applies it. He's not going to toot his own horn. So I hope you don't mind if I say this, Ricardo, but he is so experienced from a manufacturer standpoint, and to segue into owning his own business of actually becoming a consultant is just awesome. So I commend you for your background and for your expertise.
Thank you, Peggy.
Thank you, Peggy, for mentioning that. So moving on from there, say Ricardo's come out and he's evaluated everything and determined that there needs to be some kind of ceiling, or not a completely replaced. Rudy, you want to talk about what a project would typically look like, out of the stages it goes through, the time it takes, and what people need to be thinking about if they're considering this kind of project?
Absolutely. And from Ricardo and Carmelo, whether it's a consultant or an engineer or an architect, the analysts, the analysis is the most important part of this. If, buyer beware, if somebody gets up on your roof and they look around and they say, yep, this is a good candidate, they're not gathering enough information. We're going to have 2 or 3, if not 4 or 5 visits to that roof with different personnel. I'm going to go out there originally to inspect it. I'm going to get somebody like Carmelo or Ricardo involved. We're going to have the manufacturer there. This is a big ticket item. Like Ricardo said, some of these things can be anywhere from $50,000 to $500,000 or even $1 million. So there's a lot of checks and balances. That's why Munyon has a engineer on staff like Andy, so that Andy and Carmelo and Ricardo and myself can all, and the manufacturer who's providing the product, can all talk and get on the same page and explore our options and a plan of attack. So this isn't a simple process. It takes multiple visits. Once we decide on a process, we can go out there and we can have the application done. So the application of the product isn't the hardest part. The hardest part, the most time consuming part, is analyzing what the issue is and how to correct it. Once we figure it out, these silicone coatings, we just did 39,000 square feet. We did it in about 2 weeks. Make sure that the contractor is certified. Make sure that even though you don't need a roofing license because it's considered maintenance, we have a state certified roofing license. How deep and how many credentials does the contractor have? All of our employees are W-2 employees. We don't use any subcontractors. We can provide rosters for that. Make sure that if the subcontractor is up there, that they have the proper license. So it's your normal checks and balances. And once we analyze that, once we have, you make sure we have all the credentials, it's very, it's not a hard process to apply these coatings, whether it's foam or it's silicone. And another thing that we do is we really talk to you and we really walk you through the process. We don't just say, yeah, we can do that. Go ahead and cut us a check for 30% and we'll have it done in 2 weeks. It's a real, it's a partnership. Absolutely.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And can I add to that, Ms. Carmelo?
Sure.
Just real brief. We recently got a call from a somebody that was on the board with an association here in Palm Beach County. They're doing about $1.2 million of roof replacement. They went and got bids from contractors before. They never got a spec package written or a roof assessment, as far as I know. They just went right to bidding, getting their own bids on contractors, not comparing apples to apples. And then they asked, there's a worried board member requested a proposal from me after the fact. And I bring this up because this guy is doing it completely wrong. They should be hiring a design professional to come in, assess the situation, like Ricardo was saying, provide specs for the replacement or repairs. Instead of doing that, they went right to bid with these contractors without a formal bid documents and so on. So I think a lot of the managers on this webinar probably know better, but interestingly, that particular building actually had a management company that I think was inexperienced. But I just wanted to say that it just makes no sense to add on to what Rudy was saying. You really need a lot more research and documentation on what's actually going to be done prior to moving to hire the contractor. So I thought that was an interesting point that maybe it resonates with a property manager or somebody else.
Maybe Dan, excuse me, you could elaborate on that. What does Campbell do? For what would your managers do? How would they approach the bidding process or coordinating this sort of a project.
Yeah, I mean, I was actually just getting ready to go into the project management discussion next, because I think we've got a lot of managers on here. Campbell has 150 managers, and I've never met any of them one that says, oh, I've got a lot of time on my hands to be able to take on a huge project right now. This will be easy. So if you ever ask any of the most good managers, if you say, hey, should there be some project management involved, particularly when you get into these 6-figure projects, that's where I think there's a lot of value to that. And I'll ask Claudia that. So how do you see the project management fitting into all of this?
Right. So thank you for that question. I think that it's important to keep in mind that your roofing project is just like any other construction project, right? Your scope is going to vary vastly. It's going to depend on what your requirements are. If it's a requirement that is being imposed on the building, or whether it's the association's goal and objective to get to a certain point with your roof. So whether you're talking about a roof repair or re-roof, your association has to make a well-informed decision that is going to align with their goals, whether it's a short-term solution or long-term investment. So from our perspective, it's our job to wrap our arms around the project, protect the association, and ensure that you're going through these appropriate steps and that you're going to come in within your budget and schedule. So we can work with the project team that may have already been established, or we can bring the professionals that you need to the table. So we'll review estimates to make sure that everything should be included and everything is taken into account, and make sure your bids are apples to apples. Take you through that RFP process that can be very confusing, and you want to eliminate as much confusion and bring as much clarity as possible for those contractors to give appropriate pricing. We run cost benefit analyses to understand what the best approach is, discuss with all the consultants, all the professionals on board, the contractors, and we review these materials and methods that are proposed through this process to make any site-specific suggestions that are more appropriate that we've seen through this process. Again, we also review contracts thoroughly, because you got to ensure that the association has all its tools, using the contract as an example, at its disposal to enforce the agreement. So we work with the attorney on that. And all of this is to say that with your owner's rep, we're looking at the big picture. We're zooming out so that we understand what's happening with the project. We want to make sure that your association is not exposed. And we accomplish this, again, through the proper planning and subsequent implementation of that plan, as specific as it needs to be for your project.
Right. Great. So one of the things, again, I might put you a little bit on the spot here, but is there like an order of magnitude that you would suggest if a project's a $500,000 project or $1 million project? What kind of order of magnitude should you expect to spend on your project management?
I think it all depends on the services and on the needs of the association. So in many cases, we can be brought in through construction administration only to help assist with all of the budgeting and checking payment applications and reviewing invoices and kind of being the eyes and ears for the finances, so that nothing is flying out the window when things are fast during the construction. Or we can be brought in right in the beginning and only provide pre-construction services, where we're focused on the pre-planning, focused on the goals, the objectives, the bid documents, making sure everything is going well through the permitting process, understand what the expectations are there, and getting you through those hurdles so that ultimately you are moving quickly through construction. So it's going to depend on what the association feels that they need, on the kind of services that they're expecting. But the sooner you bring us on board, I think the less mishap you can have through the process, because there's a lot of coordination and a lot of things that need to be taken care of. Otherwise, you get into big trouble in the middle of construction.
We always highly recommend this, just because you look at a project like this, you don't know you have a problem on something like this, maybe for 5 or 10 or 15 years, if it's not really overseen carefully between the project manager and the engineer. So, you guys create great service for that. Kelly, is there anything you wanted to add?
I guess you saw me on mute. That was great. And I love what everybody's brought to the table today. When it comes to owner's representation / project management, what you do not want is someone that says, we charge you a percentage of what you're going to spend overall. Our job is to have the best interest of the association, of everybody that lives in this property. And how would you have any incentive if the company can make more money if we get you to spend more money? Our job is to help you spend the accurate amount of money And these experts are a perfect panel. I feel like a bobblehead today because I'm just agreeing with so many experts that we have here. The pre-planning, and Claudia and our team is phenomenal about this. The pre-planning is the most important thing. Rudy was touching on it. Pretty much everybody was touching on the pre-planning aspect. That will save the people the most money. It will keep the landfills a little bit less full. You know, all the pre-planning is so important. So we just want to make sure that you invest that type of monies into it before you go. You know, I had somebody last week tell me they could spend $500,000 to prolong the life of their seawall for a year, or they could spend $1.5 million and have it go for dozens of years. I don't even know why they were telling me that. That's kind of a no-brainer. Why are you going to throw $500,000 away to prolong something for a year or two? So pre-planning is important, and I've enjoyed being a bobblehead for this conversation. And Dan, I think you have missed your calling, because I think you are phenomenal. You could have a TV show. I'd watch you every night.
Let's do it. Let's do it next week. Let's do it next week. You know, I'm using the enhancers on the video, so it makes me look younger and more handsome. So
I'm buying some
new features. So,
right. And I just wanted to share something, echoing Kelly and Claudia, with respect to project management and the pre-planning aspect. And you'd be surprised how many clients, board of directors, that are trying to go it alone, even without an engineer, for $1.5 million project. And, you know, Steve and I both, like, we're sometimes shocked, and they say, you know, stop what you're doing, because you are a volunteer and you're not a project manager. And this is a huge project. And to have the professionals assist the association is key. As you know, and I both know as well, you don't want to call me after something goes wrong, because then you go over to the other side of the office and you're in litigation. And that's where you don't want to be. So as volunteer board members, and of course, as property managers who may be influenced or pressured into being a project manager, seek the professionals, let your board be informed, inform your board that that is key to a successful project. Without it, you're going to end up giving us a call because something dramatically has gone wrong with respect to that project, whether again, it's $50,000 or $1.5 million, upwards of $2.5 million. I have plenty of examples just from this last year where a project manager and certainly an engineer, if they weren't utilized, you're going to end up with problems.
No, I think that's a great point, and hopefully I don't insult anyone by saying this, but you know, just because you are on the board and you built homes in New Jersey for 20 years doesn't mean that this is something you should try to do on your own. And that might mean that you should be on the committee that talks to Ricardo and gets educated by Ricardo and Carmelo and Claudia and Andy and everybody on here. And I think that's one of the neatest points of this whole presentation, is you're starting to realize this is a complex thing to do. There's a whole lot of different experts that need to be involved in this. And it's not, no one person has all the answers. So I agree. I'd love to have this whole team together to do all our roof projects. That would be fantastic. So now I'm going to go back to Peggy now, which is kind of the beginning and the end, because this all starts when all of a sudden, hey, we've got a roof problems, and then we need an emergency service to come out, or hey, these guys did a great job. It's 20 years later and we have a problem. So tell us kind of, you know, how often are the emergency calls you get related to roof leaks? Is that a pretty common thing, or? Oh, you're muted. Oh.
No, I'm saying, what was your question? You broke up. How often or what?
Oh, how often are the emergency calls that you might get related to roof leaks?
Oh, I'd say 90% of them. I mean, there's, or maybe 80 to 90%. And the thing of it is we do use a unbiased leak detection process where we, you know, make sure that we, you know, identify where the leak is before we start any of our services. But we do respond, the first call is an emergency within the hour. So then from there, we plan out, you know, what would be the next step. So like I said, with the rain, as I opened up, having right now a havoc on lots of buildings, and it's just showing lots of leaks and so on, you know, it's worth it to have that leak detection tests done. And then if, hopefully we've got a roofer or roof consultant involved that we can also discuss before we start major services, because there's no sense if you don't fix it, the problem, there's no sense in, trying to do a lot of drying out services because you're just going to be ongoing, continuous. But we also do a lot of projects I want to mention that are non-insurance based. Some people have very high deductibles. We do work with people. We also have community rebates available. And we also have an emergency management plan that we can come out and evaluate your buildings, condo buildings or commercial buildings, and we can lay out a schematic of all of the possibilities, and of where the air conditioning units are laid out, where the leaks can start, as well as the entrances and exits of the buildings. And this is something that's valuable because when a leak hits, catastrophe, especially if it's a hurricane, something major, we can just come straight to the building and we know all the shutoff points, we know everything. So if I can offer that to you, that is a service we offer at no charge.
So what's an example of, I know some of the buildings we've been in before would be like, they'll send Bob the handyman over. Hey, there's a leak, Bob the handyman runs over. And if that happens for a year or two, what have you seen those kind of situations and where they end up when they rely on Bob the handyman to do it instead of having a professional come in?
Yes, quite often it's about the money. Someone mentioned that earlier, that, they just don't want to spend the money and so on. But in the long run, they really need a leak detection study done and evaluation. And, I also, when I'm making my calls, not only do I call on the property managers, I try to introduce myself to the maintenance guys and try to stress that don't try to take this on yourself, because it could be thousands of dollars in the long run to some innocent residents where this could have been prevented, especially where there's mold starting to, encroach on the property as well. So it's a combination of not just stopping the leak and drying out the water, but it's preventing, the mold and mildew as well. So maintenance people, 9 chances out of 10, they're not qualified. So they do need to have professional backup.
I mean, I know that we had a condo a few years ago that we had just started, and it turns out that they had been having minor leaks for years and years. And then they finally did the investigation like you're suggesting. And it turns out if they had solved this earlier with some minor repairs, it would have been no problem. But it ended up being completely tearing the walls off. Everything was mold infested. The wood was rotten on the inside of some of the different, these were low-rise condos. And it was, hundreds, it was like $30,000 per owner assessment on units that were valued at $200,000 because they just didn't do the right thing early on. So
for a $2,000 leak detection test,
Exactly. So I think I covered everybody. Is there anyone else that has anything they want to add that they feel like we didn't cover today? So Ricardo, I think you're muted, Ricardo.
If I can add one more thing, and this has to do with Lisa and Paula can chime in on this. When you do a restoration, you can depreciate the entire project on the first year. So that's an important aspect to look at. And when you're looking at the impact, the financial impact of a restoration, it can be completely deducted in the first year.
Okay, great. Thanks for mentioning that. I will add one thing, because one of the first questions I answered was before we even started the webinar. Somebody asked about information about homeowner insurance for their own units. And I pointed somebody to an article we'd written on our blog post on our blog, it's readfan.org, about the value of HO6 claims that, these are loss assessment coverage claims that you can do to help cover the cost of common area damage that, the owner's homeowner insurance can help cover that. And that is, if you're not familiar with that, make sure you understand it. I know we've had some condos we got involved with where they thought they were going to have to pay all this money, and it turns out, they could get about $175,000 through this HO6 process by leveraging their homeowner's insurance. So that's something I think is important, that when you have big roof issues and your deductibles aren't met, this is a great way to hit the deductibles potentially. So I just wanted to throw that in there as well. So I'll turn it back over to you, Rudy, just to close up. So.
Thank you. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us. Andy, he is certified as the continuing education credit. How do you give them credits? We're getting a lot of questions, Andy, on how do I get my credit? How do I get my credit? And we usually get a lot of emails right after this saying, hey, how do I get my credit? Can you talk them through how you issue those?
Yes. So credits are issued through DVPR. So assuming everyone has provided their names as they are known to the DVPR, not some random nickname that I get a lot of, but names as they're known to the Florida DVPR, I will upload the credits and, give me, I'll start tomorrow, but we got a lot of participants. So it might be Monday before I upload them, which means it might be Wednesday before you see credits showing up. That's how it works.
So also have them submit their CAM number to you.
Yep, we'll have to have the CAM number too. So wait to the end of the week, Thursday or Friday, to go ahead and see those credits. If you don't have them, reach out to me or Andy. Also, we have the slides. We have the recorded video. Reach out to me if you need us to share that with you. Everybody will be reaching out to you probably via email. When I reach out with my follow-up email, I will put everybody's contact information that was on this call. So look for that this evening. And thank you. We're going to do more of these. We're going to put you on the contact list. We do these about once or twice a month. Munyon has 5 different classes that they teach as far as building inspections, roof coatings, etc. I know Peggy and Claudia and Ricardo and Carmelo and Paul and Lisa also have classes that they can teach. So in the spirit of networking, thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Rudy.
everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Great rest of the day.
Thank you.